Hello everyone and welcome to this Playwright JavaScript series, and in this particular tutorial we will learn to maximize the browser. So let's begin. In Playwright there is no direct method to maximize the window just like we have in the Selenium. So if you have a Selenium background, you know that in Selenium we have a specific or dedicated method to maximize the browser. But in case of Playwright there is no such method. Now in Playwright, how we can maximize the browser, because there are so many scenarios where we need to maximize the window. So in Playwright, you can utilize the concept of the viewport, and using that viewport, you can maximize the window. And now there are two approaches. One is that you can set the viewport in the global configuration, which means that it will be applicable across all the tests. And secondly, you can also define the viewport configurations on the test level. So test will actually be utilizing those particular viewport configurations. Now, you might have a question over here that if we applied both, for example, if you applied a global configuration and you have a configuration on the test level, so what will happen? So basically, the test level will override the configuration which you have defined globally. Now, how we can define that globally? So basically what you need to do is that you need to go to this playwright config.js. If you click on this here, if you scroll down here, you will see that projects. So here we can actually configure the viewport. Here you see that we have the Chromium or the Chrome browser, then we have Firefox, then we have a WebKit. So here we can actually define the configuration. Now, if you define over here, this means that it will be applicable across all the tests. Now, by default, if I run with the default configuration over here, so if I run the test over here, so you will notice that it will not maximize the browser. Okay. And we want to execute our test in the maximized browser. Okay. So let this execution happen and we will see that how we can actually change this configuration to maximize the browser. So in terms of the Chrome and the Edge is easier because they both use Chromium. So we can go with the custom Chromium settings over here with the viewport, and you can easily maximize the browser. But in case of the Firefox, what happens is that Firefox is not a Chromium based, and in that particular case, what we need to do is that we need to actually use the viewport, the configurations. So viewport in terms of the size. Okay, so if I go here and open the browser, so this is a website which you can use to identify the current viewport of your basically the screen. So here you see that we have this viewport right now. So we will utilizing that one in our test. But in case of the Chromium one, we don't need this one. I'll just show you. Just see that I just started the execution and you see that it's not a maximized browser right now. Okay, it's a particular window on the screen. Now if I go back over here, so what I have done is that I have already written the configurations so that we can easily see those changes. Okay, so let me go to my notepad over here, and what we will do is that, so for like Chrome or the Chromium one, we will use this configuration. So let me explain you what we are doing here in this particular configuration. So this is the name of the browser, and this browser should use the Chromium, and viewport is null. Null means that it will allow us to maximize the screen or full the screen. Then headless means that false means this is not the configuration for the headless approach. And when we want this configuration, so basically we want add the launch options, and then we are explicitly defining the user agent. So basically this whole configuration is basically a custom configuration for the Chrome browser and similarly for the Edge browser. Okay, so what I'll do is that let's go here and I just copied this one and paste it over here. I will share this in my description as well, so you can copy from there and utilize directly in your project. Okay, and just save this one, and there is no errors in the configuration. Right, now let's run this one again, and this time you will see that it will maximize the browser. So we are using the Chrome configuration. So it will open the Chrome and the complete window. Okay. And similarly, it is really easier for the Edge as well, because in the Edge we are actually using the Chromium, right? So we just need to set or tell that the channel is Microsoft Edge so that we can run the Edge. Again, the viewport will be null, then headless will be false. Then arguments, launch options, we have arguments to start and maximize, and this is the user agent for the Edge browser. But in case of Firefox, as we discussed that in that case we will be actually passing the width and height in terms of the viewport, because this configuration does not support by the right. Okay, so now you see that we have a complete maximized window or browser where it actually executed the test. So similarly, you can utilize this Edge configuration. So what I'll do is that I'll copy this one from here and go back to my Visual Studio Code. And what I'll do is that I'll just change this configuration just to show you how it works. And now this is a Edge configuration for the Edge one. And now let's rerun the test, and this time you see that the Edge will open in the maximized window, and this is a complete window. There will be challenges when we actually provide the exact viewport. You will see that it's not actually completely maximizing in the case of the Firefox. So if I show you, so here in the case of the Firefox, you see that it's basically we are providing the viewport width and height, but still you will see that it will not actually maximizing or completely covering the screen. Okay, and in terms of using how we can use the configuration in the test, so simply test.use, and we need to provide this configuration to the test. Okay, now if you have defined the configuration for the Edge on the global level and you are using this configuration on the test level, so test level will override configuration which you have defined in the main or the global configuration. Okay, so you see that Edge is open over here and it's running the test in the Edge and maximize window. Okay, now the best practice is that you should define the global configurations, and when you're executing, then you can define the viewport or the different configuration for your test. So basically you might need to test your application on the mobile size or maybe a tablet size or different scale resolutions you might need to test, right? And there might be certain test cases, maybe 5 or 10 test cases where you need to do that, right? In that case, always define the global configuration so that your 80% or 90% test cases should be executed on the maximize window, and the rest will be executed as per the defined configuration. So you can use this configuration on the test level. Okay, so what I'll do is that simply if I go here and go back to the Chromium. Okay, and now this is a test. So here test dot use. So basically what I'll do is that, so test dot use, so copy this one, and now this is the Edge one, right? Okay, so test dot use, so test should use this Chromium, but the channel is MS Edge, so Microsoft Edge. And you see that in the global configurations we have the Chrome, right? Let's see if I execute this one, what happens now. Because in the test level, I have a different configuration, and globally, I have a different configuration for this one, right? So, as this has two configurations, now the test will actually get the priority, and that particular configuration will be applied on the test level. It will not get the configurations from the global file, which is the playwright config.js. Okay, now it's executing the test, and you'll see that it will actually open the Firefox. Oh, sorry, it's actually open the Edge browser. Okay, so it's taking some time to execute this one, And if I go back to this one, my notepad, it is. So I will share all this in the description. You see that the edge actually got open over here, though we have a configuration defined for the crew in the configuration file. Now, in case of this one, I don't want to execute this one, but I will share this with you because it will not actually maximizing the window, but somehow you will see a better screen size when you're executing on the Firefox level. So I will share all this in the description. And again, this is basically a default. This is not a default configuration. It's basically a custom configuration for the Chrome, Edge, and Firefox using the viewport. So viewport is equals to null. Basically allows to maximize the screen. And arguments are that we should be doing this on the start, and then we are explicitly defining the user agent for this Chrome and then Edge, and as you can also define for the Firefox, but it will not help in this particular case. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. If you like our content, then do like, comment, share and subscribe our channel. Once again, thank you so much and see you in the next tutorial.